Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Let's Kick It channel where we share soccer interviews, tips, and tricks. We hope you're doing well. My name is Johanna. I go by Coach Joe on the soccer field. And today I'm excited to connect with this amazing coach who not only has a strong work ethic, but his coaching speaks volumes. He's coached hundreds of kids throughout the DFW area, and we're so glad to have him here today to share his journey. Aron, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on my very first podcast where I'm not hosting it. Feels great.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll get started. We just want him to share his story and his journey as a player and now as a coach. Aron, can you tell everyone what you do now and who you do it for?
So right now I'm a coaching coordinator for Soccer Shots DFW. So previously I used to be for Central Dallas, but now we're DFW, so reaching towards Fort Worth and Dallas. Basically, what we are, we're an enrichment program that provides soccer training for kids that are being introduced to the sport. So we are there for the 2 to 8 year olds that are just beginning with soccer, and we don't just focus on just that. We focus on cognitive learning and motor skills ability. So we try to just teach them how to balance, how to use their bodies. We teach them words that we use in games. So, for example, respect, determination, confidence, teamwork, stuff like that. So that's kind of what we do. And my position right now as a coaching coordinator, I'm in charge of all of our coaches. I take care of all the coaches that I have. I provide equipment, I provide advice, tips, tricks. I'm kind of like a mentor to them. So I help bring on new coaches, I help train coaches. And that's pretty much what I do with Soccer Shots.
Nice. Sounds like a huge responsibility because I mean that's 2 year olds. You're like their first coach, their first coaching experience. So it has to be a positive one from the get-go.
Yes, very much so. And again, I also forgot to mention that also on the side, I'm also a fitness instructor as well here in Arlington with the Beacon Recreation Center. So one of my mentors had brought me on for my internship there. So I kind of brought all of that as well from what I learned from soccer into that program over there. And I've kind of been able to kind of make my own style of coaching just because of that. But yes, it is a very rigorous work to get the kids to kind of listen. But luckily, with enough patience and enough perseverance on the parents and children's sides, they end up getting the hang of it.
Awesome. Good stuff. Can you take us back in time and tell us when you first fell in love with soccer?
Um, so basically, when I was three, I was one of two. So me and my younger brother, so I'm the oldest. When we were playing, we were, I believe, in Indiana. When I first started, we were playing rec league. And obviously, there you just get a ball thrown in the middle. Now, these are one of my earliest memories that I do remember. And I'm pretty sure my mom could correct me on this and my dad. But we were playing at the end of that season, one thing I remember is at the end of the game, they're handing out awards and like the prizes and participation medals. But then they did a most valuable player for the team,
Hmm.
and I saw the award. And I was like, why is there only one? And the coach said, well, like, don't worry, you're gonna find out. And then I find out that it was me. I won the most valuable player award on a team for 4 year olds. And that's one of my earliest memories. And then from there, ever since I won that one award, I just continued playing. But I guess the one of the biggest things that really got my attention was watching the Italy versus France World Cup. What was it? 2000? Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. 8, I think.
Oh, I
I,
don't remember the year, but I remember that game. Yeah.
yeah.
The World
So
Cup
I
score.
remember watching that game. I remember watching all the way from the quarterfinals to the finals. And I remember watching the likes of Ronaldinho, but the people that captured my love were just the
Hmm.
back line, the defense. Like they just look so strong. They just look so fierce, and stuff like that got me, like, I was like, wow, I want to do that. So that's kind of where my position also comes from being a defender. So the World Cup and then that little moment when I was 4 is kind of what captured my love for the game.
Wow, such a young age. Like again, 4 years old, 3 years old. And I mean, now we have participation awards for everybody, but I
Mhm.
think it's very important to have that, like you said, MVP or first place, second place. You have to work for it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do agree.
So awesome. And then, so what inspired you to pursue playing for the Laredo Heat reserve team?
So as it might come off a little weirder than it might sound, but just I was the first generation to go win the youth academy for Laredo Heat. Like I'm generation number one.
Hmm.
Obviously, I had older generations above me, but we all went in together. So kind of the way it played out. I moved to Laredo. It was me, my brother, and my younger sister, and my mom wanted me to continue playing soccer. At this time, I had no like I couldn't speak Spanish whatsoever. So the first team my mom got me on was where she got with a friend from work, and she says, "Yeah, my son plays on this little league team in Rancho Viejo." That's what it was called,
Hmm.
and the team was Cruz Azul. And so I was on that team for I think a year and a half, but my mom wanted me to be on like the academy level there. And the only thing that was academy level there was a team called United.
Hmm.
So the head coach for United for all age groups turned to be the head coach for the Laredo Heat Soccer Club there in when it started in 2004. And then he obviously took his United team and he made it into Laredo Heat Youth Academy. So I technically was indoctrinated into, I hope the word right, but kind of in initiated into that youth academy there. So with that, I just kept on moving up, moving up, moving up. We were playing club soccer outside all the way in the valley. We went to Harlingen, all the way to Houston. I think we traveled to Dallas once,
Hmm.
but that was kind of how I got into the whole Laredo Heat system. Is I was one of the very first ones there. And I kind of went all the way until I was 18. So
Hmm.
the semi-professional team, Laredo Heat, has become a very well-known club team down there. So then they started a U under 21 reserve team, and I was very fortunate to be able to be on that team. Now I didn't get as much playing time as the older kids for obvious reasons because there's
Hmm.
older kids. I'm a little smaller to them. But it was a great experience nonetheless. I was able to play a few games here and there. I was able to travel with them. We got like the kits where it had like the 45 on it, so that way if we ever went to the Laredo Heat team, you wore that number. And it was just a great experience overall because I was also with a lot of fantastic friends of mine who I still talk to today, and very fortunate to have been in that little system there. The head coach, his name was Israel Coyazo,
Hmm.
one of my biggest mentors, one of the reasons why I got into coaching, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
No, for sure. And I think that's great that what youth clubs do now is they start at rec, youth academy, and then they feeder through all the way to what is
Hmm.
it? Academy, ECNL for the girl side, and then potentially pro.
Yes.
So yeah, I've seen that growth on both Houston or South Texas and North Texas. And then were your plans to go pro at some point or
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean,
yeah?
who doesn't want to be a professional soccer player? Obviously with I didn't have I didn't have the best I guess football coordination. Whenever the ball touched my foot, I just launched it. So I worked as hard as I could. I wasn't the most talented, but I believe that I was one of the most hardworking ones there. And so basically that just turned me into what we call the center of the back line, to where you just stop the person in front of you and just get the ball out of there. So that was what my role was, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to kind of get me to the collegiate or pro level.
Hmm.
um, but I mean, nonetheless, yes, I wanted to go pro so bad.
I think that's like almost everyone's dreams. And then
Yes.
after you finish high school, college, you kind of can get lost. Well, for me, you're used to practicing with the team, traveling, doing games, and then it's all of a sudden it's gone.
Hmm.
So you have all this times like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Working out on your own. So, and then, okay, so that's fine. Didn't play pro, but like, where do you see yourself in like 5 years from now? Like as a coach or having your own?
Uh, so it's a very difficult question for me, just because I'm a person that tries to tend to go for like a 1 year time skip rather than five, just because
Mhm.
you never know what happens in 5 years. But if I could give you the most clear answer, my goal in the end and what I kind of want to reach towards is kind of turning something into, from like introduction to soccer, but also introducing fitness and strength and conditioning aspect to it as well for youth development. So stuff like that, but where I can have it together and where I can let it grow. Because the reason why I kind of wanted to get into this whole coaching business, or what drove me to actually want to strive to be a better coach, was because growing up, being with Israel Coaso was fantastic. It's unfortunate we didn't have a weight room back there, so we never got to experience, how to lift weights properly, or how
Mhm.
and anything like that can help us improve as a player. And I didn't find out all of that until high school. And even then we were in the weight room once or twice a week. And
Yeah.
so you didn't get much education on it. And so my goal is to kind of combine those two things together and
Mhm.
kind of create it, but for the youth system. So like from ages like 10 and younger, because as much as the research shows out there in the world, which I'm pretty sure there is, that resistance training for youth isn't a terrible thing. And there's a one way we can prove it, of course, but I believe that starting at a younger age with a small amount of resistance can help them grow a lot more.
So you mentioned your coach. I mean, I think it's also important as to why players get into coaching because they had that positive role model. So what got you into coaching then? And how long have you been coaching for?
So coaching for, I'm coming up on 4 years now. um so what kind of got me into the coaching aspect was when I first applied for Soccer Shots back in when I was I think 20. When I
Mhm.
first applied, I actually had no coaching experience whatsoever. I never coached soccer. Sure, I helped at the camps that we would hold, but like even then, like it was just I was just a ball boy at that point. Like I didn't really know things. But there's one thing that I noticed from my coach, his obviously Coach was that he was one of our most respected coaches in Laredo. Like Laredo, it was a small town growing up, but now it's a bigger town now. But
Mhm.
he was one of the most respected, and it was stuff like that to where I admired and I wanted to strive for at the beginning. But when I got into the coaching role, it was the kids' reactions. It was the parents telling me that they've seen an improvement in their kids, that what I'm doing and what I'm preaching is working. And then it's also the self growth in me because I wanted to stick with soccer, obviously, because I wanted to go pro. So one thing that I focused on was, all right, if I can't go pro, how can I be a mentor? How can I be a leader to help the next generation go pro? Because as much help as I had and as much as I could do on my own, there in Laredo, I didn't reach that level, not even close. And so I want to be able to offer that to people, that way they have that chance, a better chance than I did to go pro if they wanted to.
And that's all great, but then also having that strength and conditioning background, is there a certain certification that you have for that, or like how has that helped you as a coach?
So luckily, I was able to secure an internship in 2020 with Athlete Training and Health in Arlington.
Mhm.
They'd since moved to Plano now, if I'm not mistaken, but one of the most prestigious facilities I've ever been in. You would get players that would go to the combine, and you would get collegiate athletes that go there, high school players that are going to go college, to go to the college, and being exposed to all of that. So you do need a CSCS to be a strength and conditioning coach, so certified strength and conditioning coach. And unfortunately, I never went ahead and pursued that because I obviously got my job with the coaching coordinator with Soccer Shots.
Mhm.
And so you kind of have to you have to let certain things go in order to move up. And so that was one thing I had to let go, but it's still something that's on my bucket list there to go ahead and grab later on in the future, of course. And with the strength and conditioning and with all my mentors at ATH and all my mentors I've had along the way, it changed the way I coached, just because I was able to finally coach teenagers and adults now. Because
Mhm.
for the first 2 years, it was nothing but kids. But then I transitioned to teenagers and then adults. And then I just kind of was able to mix all those coaching styles together to create my coaching style. And so I'm very appreciative for that. So that's kind of how I use my strength and conditioning background for that, more or less. And then also, when it comes to my training sessions with the kids, I try to incorporate a little bit more plyometrics, fitness-based aspect, with them, because again, when it comes to soccer in the future, they're going to be jumping sometimes, they're going to be sprinting. So I try to introduce sprint mechanics and all that into a young age.
No, I think that also helps too. Like you said, when they get older, there's a lot of females that tear their ACL in high school and stuff like that. So maybe they can recognize some exercises that you do to avoid that or help avoid it. So this question, I find it interesting because soccer not only teaches you to be part of a team, it teaches you so much more. What three traits did you acquire as a soccer player that you believe carried over into your role as like now the director of coaching?
Oof. Um, a big one is leadership, for sure, is because my mom taught me from a young age that, she wants to raise leaders, and I'm sure all parents think that as well. But when I moved here to Dallas, one of my mentors told me, is like, well, to be a great leader, you also got to be able to fall in line and follow. And so, leadership is probably one of the biggest ones that I would take away from soccer, because I wanted to be a leader on the field, and I wanted to be the captain. I wanted to make sure that I was the loudest voice
The
on the field.
MVP.
Yeah, the MVP, you could say. But I wanted to make it known that with me lacking abilities on the ball, I wanted to try my best to be a leader on the field. Another thing, a big one that I take away is respect as well. Regardless of the team we're playing, and my goodness, in Laredo, since it was such a small town, there was grudges left, right, and center. But and that's high school level, but being in the Laredo Heat, it connected us through that way. So like Laredo Heat was everyone, like from different schools and everywhere. And so at the end of the day, at the end of the game, it was all respect at the end of it. And I carry it over here as a coach, because I want to make sure that these kids understand that no matter who you are, what's your background or whatnot, you treat everyone with respect, friends, families, and even strangers with respect. And it's something that I preach most with my kids that I coach now. And then number three, determination. Simple as that. Because again, lacking ability on the ball, I had to find some sort of extra determination in me to keep on moving forward, because I could have easily given up. I could have easily said, I'm not good on the ball. Maybe I should be going to basketball, or maybe I should go do this. But I stuck with soccer because I love the sport. And now as a coach, I am still determined to grow as a coach, because I know that there's so much that I can learn from other people. And that's kind of the three traits that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
Perfect. And then, is there anyone that inspired you throughout this journey, professional or personal?
Israel Collazo for sure. Obviously he was a huge, huge, huge mentor, especially because he was a big part of my life for, I want to say maybe 10, probably 15 years. Because
Wow.
he was my coach. He was my coach. He was my profe. He was the guy that he didn't speak English, but he tried his absolute best to speak English to me every day in practice for the first 5 years of me being with him. But then after that, it was nothing but Spanish. And he made sure that I tried my absolute best to speak Spanish. He was a big help for me on that aspect. And he's kind of also the reason why some of the drills and some of the things I do on my field, I still remember them, that I do with my kids or whenever I do private sessions. It's he's probably the number one inspiration when it comes to coaching aspect of it. But on a professional level, I think it's more players and more the captains on the field that I kind of simulate myself with. So like players like Rafa Marquez, Puyol, players like that, the way they had that like get up and keep going attitude, the captaincy leadership aspect of it, that everyone respected, that no matter what he said, you did. And if he got mad, like you were scared of him. So in a good way, but like people like that are the people that I kind of looked up to growing up.
I think for sure Rafa Marquez had great composure.
Oh.
Regardless if they were down, up, he always carried that team. I mean, I
Hmm.
look up to him too. So yeah, he was an amazing player. What's the best soccer advice anyone has given you?
Uh, Again, from Coyaso and from the many coaches that were helping Coyaso,
Hmm.
the one thing they always preach to us every halftime, every after every game, before every game. And I might be corrected on my Spanish here, but si no traes la actitud para jugar, no juegas. Vete a sentar. Go sit down.
Hmm.
If you don't have the right attitude to play, I want you to sit down. You need to tell me now. Stuck with me like glue. It's the one thing that I always stuck to my head. So whenever I do meet anyone that does speak Spanish here in the DFW,
Hmm.
and I'm coaching them or I'm training them, it's something I'll tell them, because of course they'll know. But obviously I'll tell anyone that, English or Spanish. I'll tell them, like, if you don't have the right attitude, And if you're not wanting this 100%, then let me know. Like, there's no hard feelings about it. You just got to let me know. So that way I know what we can do to either get you there, or if we need to stop, we can stop. It's better to be honest than to not be, you know? So that's something that has stuck with me since I was a kid.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like the same thing when you go into work. It's like whatever you have with has been bothering you all day, just check it out before you step in. Same thing on the soccer field. Before you step on the soccer field, we're here to play soccer. Everything else,
Mhm.
just leave it
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Um, okay, what are three tips that you want to share with soccer players who are aspiring to either play like for the first time ever or like in college or want to pursue something bigger than soccer?
Three tips I can give. Um, One is, again, like I just said, attitude.
Mhm.
You have to have the right attitude, whether it's towards playing soccer or not. You have to be able to have that attitude towards a certain goal, because that's what's going to get you to your goal, the end goal. That's what's going to get you there is your attitude. If you have the right attitude, then it'll get you there. One thing else I would say is, um, be open-minded, 100%. As I was I'm still a student of strength and conditioning and being a coach, but I'm obviously transitioning into that mentorship role, so I'm learning a lot more. And now I'm learning that I have to be more open-minded when it comes to learning, because one person or one coach could tell me one thing, but then someone else can tell me another, and it contradicts each other. And now I got to be like, all right, where can I find the middle ground to kind of see both of their eyes? What can I get from them? So being open-minded is 100% the biggest thing you got to be, because you could be a striker, but then what if your coach says, I see you as a center back,
Exactly, yeah.
and you get put back there? But what if that becomes your position that gets you to the pros? You never know. So being open-minded is definitely one of them. And then a third is, man, a third one thing up, patience. Gosh, patience. That was the one thing. If I could say I got anything out of being a coach, was patience, especially for this age group,
Yeah.
because it's the number one compliment I get. Every parent tells me, and I tell them I just been doing this for a while, and my patience has gotten so thick that I will stare at a wall, or what's it called? I could stare at a paint dry on a wall for like a good hour, and I'll be okay. Like, I've built up a good amount of patience, but it's also because I now know that it will not happen overnight. You gotta let it soak in for at least a good year, and then keep going, having the attitude, the open mindedness, and then having patience. All of those work together, and it gets you to that end goal. So yeah, those three things are probably the biggest tips I'd give to someone.
No, I think that's great. So when you're young, you see your coaches flick the soccer ball up and juggle it 10 times in a row without dropping it, and you think, that's impossible. There's no way I can do that. Like you
Mhm.
said, patience and just constantly practicing over and over. And then eventually you're doing it yourself. So those are
Yeah,
some awesome tips, Aaron. So I want to get into the rapid fire questions. So again,
yeah, of
just
course.
whatever comes to mind. I have 10 questions. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
Uh, it's possible because I'm always working. One thing is, I've recently, and it's gonna sound weird, but I've recently started reading self-help books, just because I like to kind of, I'm not in school anymore, so I kind of read a good amount here and there. Exercise is my biggest thing for obvious reasons, and being with family and friends on the weekends as much as I can. I mean, as much as I would like to be alone and take my time to rest, I nothing beats being with friends and family.
Nice. I think it also like rejuvenates and just gives you more energy sometimes to be with them.
Yeah. Hmm.
What are the top two things on your bucket list?
Oh, well, one is to travel to Manchester United's games to go see them play. Favorite team of all time.
Nice.
I want to go so bad. Like, I wanted that to be my graduation gift when I graduated, but that's one of them. Number two is probably, I want to buy my first house. Not obviously not now, but that's one of my biggest bucket lists, is to buy a house. I don't know what it is. I love being in a house. Apartments are great, but a house is different.
Hey, it's your independence. You're not having to look up to someone else who's like, stomping, or if you're above someone else.
Yeah.
I know.
I could take care of the maintenance. I don't got I have to pay it out of my own pocket, unless, like, here, like, I have to go call someone, wait 3 days, and yeah.
Yeah. And then what's your favorite day of the week?
Mondays. It's gonna sound weird. I love Mondays. It's the people think of it as the start of a new week, but I'm on Sunday and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go because on Sunday I take it super easy to the point where like that's a good amount of time for me to be like, okay, I miss work now. I hate saying it. I'm a workaholic now, and I can't wait for Mondays. Like I genuinely enjoy Mondays. I start my days at 5 a.m. and I probably don't end it till like maybe 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And then I'll think about going to bed then. But I love Mondays. It's a great Kickstarter for the day.
Nice. What's your favorite city besides the one that you live in?
Oof. Laredo's a coin toss. Laredo's obviously hometown for me. I
Mhm.
miss it a lot, but a lot of my friends are growing and moving out of there. So I would probably have to say El Paso. El Paso, just because it's some place that I see it as a rare city for me because my family lives up there and I travel there probably once every 2 to 3 years and see family. But like that's where my mom and my dad are from. And so it's like a rare place to go that I go every so often. So I would say El Paso, right, for right now, because I haven't been outside of Texas. I've only been outside once.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
besides living in Indiana, as an adult, I've never been outside of Texas.
that was my next question. Where is a place that you want to travel to? I mean, Texas is pretty big,
Yeah,
but
that's true. Okay, I'll give you two answers on that one because one is obviously Manchester in England, obviously. Two is definitely it's weird. I kind of want to go to like the northern region where like the snowy mountains are. So like Utah or any places like that. I'm a huge hiking and fishing fan, so I feel like places like that would be nice to go.
good stuff. Okay, what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, uh,
Or too many?
see, I might get a lot of I'm gonna get a lot of hits for this one. Mint chocolate chip. Huge fan of that one.
Okay. What's your favorite number?
Number three, day I was born, been number three ever since I played. Number three, that's my lucky number.
Is there three in your family? You said
Nope.
brother and sister?
Brother, sister. I have two brothers and one sister.
Oh, okay, so four. Okay.
Yeah, but number three, yeah,
Yeah. Uh, cake or pie?
cake, easy cake.
If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would be your guest of honor?
Well, you make it hard because you interviewed Osvaldo Sanchez, and I'm over here talking to you now, so that would have been a great choice because I looked up to him. Wow. Honestly, Rafa Marquez. As weird, I'm a huge USA fan. I'm USA versus Mexico. I'm cheering for USA. But
Mhm.
growing up, Rafa Marquez was just my idol. He was the number one. Like he was the guy I wanted to be. I would probably want to pick Rafa Marquez's head just a little bit, his brain a little bit. My bad.
Mhm.
But definitely him. Oh, Sir Alex Ferguson from Manchester United. That guy was a legend. The manager for Manchester United. Definitely him.
Oh, that'd be a good one. If you had a choice to climb a mountain or jump out of a plane, which one
Oh,
would you choose?
climb a mountain 100%. Take jumping out of a plane out of the picture. I'm not the biggest fan of heights, but I'll climb a mountain for sure.
Yeah, someone was like, I'll jump out of a plane if it's on the ground. I was like, oh, yeah.
No, no, that's not an answer.
But awesome. Well, good stuff, man. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story. So anyone watching this, just inquisitive about going pro or strength and conditioning, can you let them know where to follow you if they have any questions on social media?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram, Aron Villegas 03. So Aaron with one A, one R. It's Aron. It's Aron Villegas on Instagram, and then same thing with Facebook as well. But the posting there is very minimal. But there's some great stuff on there if you want to check it out.
Yeah, and I'll put the information below. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. We're so excited. I hope you guys enjoy this interview.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nice to be on here.